Over the past month, I've made our knight, our first NPC, enemies to fight, and 2 islands to explore. This week, I want to focus on improving the elements in my game. The first HUD element I made was this cheese wheel to show our health. I think having a row of hearts will look much nicer. Each heart will have 3 sprites, and I'll put together this animation when we get hit. Time to replace the weapon indicator. In Blender, I rendered out each tool and made a nice frame. If the player isn't holding a weapon, I can show a nice portrait of them too. I've been using Godot's built-in shapes to construct the 2 islands, but this can only take us so far if we want to make more interesting terrain. I've rebuilt them in Blender, and now each island has a sandy beach that slopes into the ocean. To show our trees, lamps and fences, I've been using quick 2D doodles. Let's replace them with 3D models. I use a sphere and tube to make the oak trees, and I can round out the bottom using bevel. I'll keep the textures quite simple, as these will be inflatable. Adding lots of bones inside will allow our tree to bend smoothly, and I'll add a shape key and squish it flat. We can set one bone to control our shape key in the animation. This is called a driver, and I learned all about them in this video by Jambar. For the blow up animation, I started flat, then our driver will control the shape. The top of the tree should feel heavy, so its bones can make the trunk bend smoothly, and once upright, it shouldn't snap into place. Bending it forward and back, and increasing the scale, can make it feel springy and bouncy. To add variety, I'll duplicate this model and make it taller and wider and change its colours. Next, palm trees. I'll use shorter pieces to build the body, and it needs big leaves on top. To make things easier, I only need to model and texture one trunk piece and one leaf piece, then duplicate them and assemble them together, and I will make a second variation and give it this cool unwrapping spiral animation. I found some really cool boing sound effects from Splat. Next up, time to replace the fencing. I'm going to make a wooden version for the medieval forest, and this orange netting version for the tropical island. And each version will also have a separate single post for when we snap them together in game. And here are 2 versions of lampposts to light up the world at night. At first, I thought I would use an animated sprite to create a fire on top of the tropical lamp, but yeah, this doesn't look very good. I decided it was time to learn a whole area of Godot I've never touched before: shaders. Shaders are basically mini programs to create cool effects. I followed along to this great video by Lilu. This takes a couple of images. One is the flame, another is the smoke and embers, and finally an image that adds distortion. Then using lots of nodes, this creates a really wicked fire, and I think this is a massive improvement. When I replaced my capsule knight with his 3D model, I had to create an entire animation tree. Now I'm going to hook up his shooting animation into the tree, and now we can shoot bubbles that inflate our new 3D trees. To stop our game feeling slow and sluggish, I will use a timer node to trigger a running state after 4 seconds of non-stop walking. A problem I was facing was changing the texture of one rock monster would change the texture of every rock monster, as they all share the same material. Now, I am no expert, but it takes a lot of trial and error to solve a problem when making games. A solution I came up with was to duplicate its model, and each would have a different texture, then use shape keys to only show one model at a time, then have 3 versions of each animation with different damage. Then I needed to completely rework the animation tree, then rework the code that controls the animations. I think it's finally working. Maybe there was a much easier solution. This was also a good time to add a hurt animation, and I can show these 2D strikes when he's been hit. The main menu is the first thing you see when you play a game. Right now it's looking a bit sad, so I added a nice background with a blur effect. and new fun buttons, and it also adjusted the logo. Much better. On your adventure, you will meet lots of fun characters, but the quest book doesn't indicate that. I'll make a little brick wall background and place King Stephen in front to make a nice profile photo. In Clip Studio Paint, I'm going to make a nice portrait frame. Texture button nodes have different states: normal, pressed, hover, disabled, and focused, so we can make a different texture for each. If we haven't met a character yet, I can set the button to be disabled, and this blank frame will be showed, ready to be filled in. Hover and focus are the same state. One is from when using a mouse, the other is for when using a gamepad, and clicked is when a button has been activated. Now the quest book is looking much nicer. All these improvements look great. I'm really happy with how my game is coming along. It's a good idea to spend time polishing and fixing rough edges in your projects. Game development is not a race. Next, I'll be adding a new NPC, the interventory system, and adding progression. Subscribe to follow along, and big love to my Patreon supporters.